Something deep under the Giza Plateau has shaken the ground, literally and figuratively. In March of 2025, a controversial new study claimed the discovery of a massive underground complex stretching over 6,500 feet beneath the pyramids, 10 times larger than the pyramids themselves. Using pulse radar, researchers say they found 8 vertical shafts plunging 2,100 feet and mysterious voids at 4,000 feet below the surface. Critics call it impossible. Experts say it's science fiction, but a forgotten cave system first explored in 2008 and linked to ancient Egyptian beliefs about the underworld has suddenly become central to the mystery. Could the Tomb of the Birds be the real key to Egypt's oldest secret? So, if you've heard whispers about an ancient city hidden beneath Giza's pyramids, yeah, that story with all the radar scans and secret chambers, we're going all in. But to understand this mess of a controversy and underground mystery, we need to rewind the tape. Way back to 2008, that's when Andrew Collins first stepped into something weird, something ancient, and something that just might connect directly to this new scandal. We're talking about a tunnel system buried deep beneath the Giza Plateau, a site already packed with history, mystery, and let's be honest, more conspiracy theories than a late-night Reddit thread. The talk now? A new study, shaky on peer review, but wild in its claims, says there's a massive underground city under the pyramids. We're not talking about some cute tomb or a couple of chambers. We're talking 6,500 feet wide. That's over a mile across. To be clear, that's 10 times bigger than the Great Pyramid itself. Let that number sink in. Now, how did they supposedly find all this? Pulse radar tech. Think sonar, but for land. It's like echolocation for archaeologists, shooting signals into the earth to bounce back data. According to the team, mostly from Italy and Scotland, they picked up 8 cylindrical structures stretching 2,100 feet deep, and even more unknown formations 4,000 feet below ground. That's deeper than the Empire State Building is tall, and that alone had people's jaws hitting the floor. The real drama kicks in when people start connecting this radar data with a forgotten tunnel system first stumbled upon in 2008. That's where the Tomb of the Birds comes in. Weird name, right? But this place isn't some fancy aviary. No, it's a barely recognized, almost off-the-books burial site with rows of rectangular slots carved into limestone walls. Back in the 1840s, British explorers Howard Vyse and John Perring were apparently yanking out giant mummified birds from this place. Why birds? Why there? No one's sure. But here's the kicker. The tomb leads straight into a natural cave system that Andrew Collins and his team explored. And guess where those caves go? Yep, directly under the Giza Plateau, and more importantly, toward the second pyramid. Let me explain this because this isn't just a dusty tunnel we're talking about. This cave has been scanned since 2007 by the German satellite Terra SAR-X, and it shows a sprawling network of voids and natural passages continuing all the way beneath the central pyramid. This is not some cracked wall or random pit. We're talking large chambers, consistent voids, passages that aren't just natural formations. They look like they were used, maybe even shaped, by human hands. And here's where it all starts snowballing. Because now, in 2025, these new radar scans are picking up similar shapes. 8 vertical shafts, tubes, voids, and they're right where the original 2008 cave system was found. That's what got Andrew Collins and his team back to Egypt this year, 16 years later, retracing steps into what they now call the Collins Cave. And what they found is, well, let's just say it's hard to ignore. As soon as they enter the tomb, you can see it. It's not flashy. No gold, no hieroglyphs, no mummies lounging in stone beds. Just those rectangular slots and one unassuming hole in the upper right-hand corner that leads to a pitch-black drop into the unknown. Once you're in, things get dicey fast. We're talking giant loose boulders, jagged limestone, slippery floors, and bats flying directly into your face. Literal bats. Down deeper into the cave, they hit what Collins once called the dome, a partially carved, partially natural chamber that feels like a hidden cathedral. It's massive, echoing, and leads into a south tunnel filled with even more danger. If you see here, the rocks on the floor aren't just debris. These things are ankle traps. You lose your footing in here, you're snapping more than a bone. You're leaving your leg behind. And the whole place? It's humming with mineral colors, deep black manganese streaks oozing out of the walls, crimson ochre staining the stone just like ancient blood. No torches, no lights, no exits, just one narrow path leading deeper south. Then they hit something even weirder. Striations, long, narrow claw-like marks cut into the rock. Some go beneath the surface, others make no practical sense. They're not tool marks, they don't follow any work pattern. These lines aren't for construction. They feel symbolic, purposeful, ancient, but with no explanation. And then, in the next chamber, more of them. Lines etched into the walls like warnings or records, preserved by dryness and shadow for who knows how long. Let's back up a second. The name Giza? It comes from Rostau, which means mouth of the passages, and the underworld in ancient Egyptian belief? The Duat? That's where the soul travels after death. The idea was that the dead had to pass through complex caverns and caves to reach the Hall of Judgment, and what Collins is suggesting is that this cave system beneath the pyramid might not just be symbolic of the Duat, it was the Duat. A physical representation, a real-world gateway to the ancient Egyptian underworld. Now, you might be thinking this is getting a little too Da Vinci Code, and you'd be right to be skeptical, because not everyone's buying this. Critics have pounced on the radar study. Lawrence Conyers from the University of Denver basically laughed it off, saying there's no way ground-penetrating radar can reach 2,000 feet. According to him, the best-case scenario for GPR? Maybe 100 feet. Anything deeper is science fiction. And if you ask Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities, Mamdouh al-Damati, he doesn't hold back. He called the entire claim utterly baseless and slammed the study for skipping every scientific step. No peer review, no excavation, no validation by the ministry. Just a press release with bold claims and fancy radar charts. And here's the wild twist. One of the researchers behind the study, Corrado Malanga. Yeah, the same guy known for researching alien abductions. This is where things get muddy. When a UFO researcher starts showing up with data about ancient Egypt, people start rolling their eyes. Suddenly, it's not just archaeology, it's conspiracy. Aliens, lost civilizations, you name it, it's all on the table now. But let's not throw the whole story out just yet, because here's the thing. Back in 1977 and again in 1978, the Stanford Research Institute, in cooperation with Ain Shams University in Cairo, also ran seismic tests on the Giza Plateau. And guess what? They found 4 chambers underneath the second pyramid. Chambers that might be artificial. This isn't just New Age fluff. That data's been sitting in archives for decades. So now, with these new radar scans echoing similar patterns, and with Collins showing a tunnel system that literally leads into that same area, it's starting to look a lot less like fantasy and more like a real mystery we haven't cracked yet. So now what? Well, that's where things get spicy, because if these scans are real, and if this cave system really does lead to something beneath the second pyramid, then we're talking about rewriting the Giza narrative entirely. We're not just talking tombs, we're talking cities. We're talking the physical Duat. A full-blown underground world that may have been known, feared, and worshipped by the earliest Egyptians long before any dynasties rose or fell. Hugh and Andrew walked back into a cave they hadn't seen in 16 years, and it's like time froze inside. Still dusty, still dangerous, still mysterious. But now it's at the center of a global controversy. Back when Andrew first crawled in there in 2008, with researcher Nigel Skinner Simpson and his then-wife Sue, barely anyone knew that these caves existed. No maps, no mentions, not even Egypt's top officials seemed to have a clue. And get this, Zahi Hawass, the face of Egyptian antiquities, got caught off guard too. He was filmed going into the caves later that same year for a show called Chasing Mummies, and on camera, he looked like he was seeing it for the first time. That's the guy who ran the show on the Giza Plateau for decades. And even he didn't know about these tunnels? That's a red flag big enough to cover a pyramid. Let me break this down, because here's where things start getting messy. During that TV episode, one of the archaeologists, David Cheatham, went into what they called the tube and announced that these caves ended right there. Dead end, nothing more to see. Except, we now know that wasn't true. That statement was fed to him. He was told to say it. Because in reality, scans from 2007, long before that episode aired, already showed the cave shadows stretching from the Tomb of the Birds all the way to the northwest corner of the second pyramid. So, the big question, why cover it up? Well, here's a theory. The second pyramid, the one built for Khafre, wasn't just a tomb in the eyes of the ancients. It was linked to Hermes Trismegistus, also known as Thoth in Egyptian lore. Hermes was the keeper of knowledge, the guide of souls, and according to legend, the guardian of the secrets of creation. Some stories say his body was buried beneath this very pyramid with the original emerald tablet resting on his chest. Yeah, the same tablet people say holds the keys to alchemy and the mysteries of the universe. Now before your eyes roll out of your head, hold on, because these myths have been passed down for thousands of years. Locals have whispered about this stuff forever. There's even a legend about a giant snake called El Hanish that guards the secret chamber deep in the caves. The story says anyone who tries to reach that chamber will be blinded, unless they're the chosen one. That person will only lose one eye. But if you see here, we're not dealing with fairy tales. We're dealing with radar scans, mineral striations, old legends lining up with modern technology, and stories that suddenly start making sense. And there's more. Some say this secret chamber is actually the Hall of Records, a place American psychic Edgar Cayce said would be discovered near the Sphinx. He claimed it held ancient texts, maybe even the originals of the pyramid texts, spells etched in stone to guide pharaohs into the afterlife. Cayce said the entrance would be close to the Sphinx. Turns out there are tombs inside the Sphinx enclosure, with tunnels pointing right toward the second pyramid. And now all eyes are back on that middle pyramid, the one that always seemed like the quiet middle child between its taller and smaller siblings. But under it, that's where the real noise is coming from. Here's where it gets really weird. If the data is accurate, and that's still a big if, then these structures under Giza weren't built by the dynastic Egyptians. They're older, way older, possibly dating back to the end of the Ice Age, around 10,000 BC. That would make them more ancient than the pyramids themselves, more ancient than written language, more ancient than any known civilization on Earth. So, who built them? Well, Andrew Collins has a theory. He thinks these underground systems were created, or maybe just used, by what he calls Egypt's elder culture, a lost group that may have existed thousands of years before dynastic Egypt even got rolling. And there might be a link between them and Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey. That's the site with the world's oldest known megalithic structures, dating back 12,000 years. Sounds crazy, right? But now, archaeologists are looking at a place in Egypt called Helwan, just south of Cairo. There was a settlement there 20,000 years ago, and it has ties to Göbekli Tepe. Coincidence or ancient connection? So let's piece this together. We've got a radar scan showing giant underground structures that shouldn't be possible. A cave system accidentally rediscovered in 2008 that leads straight toward the pyramid linked to Hermes. Legends about forbidden knowledge, giant snakes, and secret chambers passed down by locals for generations. Data linking ancient Egypt to even older sites in Turkey. And an entire archaeological establishment trying to play catch-up to something they once dismissed. This story's not over. Far from it. New scans are being analyzed. More people are paying attention. And let's be real. If the entrance to the Lost Hall of Records is sitting behind a limestone wall inside the Tomb of the Birds, you better believe someone's going to go through it. And if you're into this kind of deep dive content, don't vanish into the underworld. Hit that like button, drop a comment below, and what do you think is hiding beneath the second pyramid? And if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on those notifications, because there's a lot more coming on this, and you won't want to miss it.